notice from this date, that was just over 130 years ago. Okay, we were hoping to actually unveil this on his birthday, but we couldn't work out. We all had conflicts, and we knew he wasn't going anywhere, so we thought we'd just, and so we coupled this with what we're doing here. So he was a guy in Wisconsin. He decided to run off and join the circus as a young guy. He actually went to college at Notre Dame. So he came from a prosperous family, but decided to chuck it all and go join the circus. He got the acting bug at Notre Dame, and he went and did that. He started working in stock companies, and in 1911 he ended up on Broadway in New York, where he met Max Sennett, who was with Biograph Studios in New York at the time. Okay, and you've all heard of Sennett, madcap comedies, which he helped create. Because in 1912, when Sennett came west to found Keystone Studios in Edendale, which is just down the road from here, he brought Ford Sterling, and Ford Sterling became the big man on campus. Basically, he was the first big superstar of comic films. Okay, he was the first leader of the Keystone Cops. Okay, Chief Teasel, that was his main role. He had a very, very successful career in silence. But a couple years later, by the way, he made 280 films. That tells you, what kind of history that they had.
Into the sound era.
Into the sound era, yes. But a couple years later at Keystone Studios, another guy showed up named Charlie Chaplin. Now we got a new big man on campus, right? Ford Sterling's career really suffered because Chaplin now got all the publicity, as rightly so. I mean, Chaplin was brilliant, of course. Ford Sterling and his acting style, which was very overly dramatic, that was kind of looked on as old-fashioned fairly quickly. The thing was, he was a good actor. He survived. He actually started his own studio for a short time, where we ate breakfast recently. The Denny's up here on Sunset and Gower, that used to be where the Ford Sterling Studios used to be. Yeah. Later on, he came back into the fold, started working for Max Sennett again, did a lot of films, did some really major work. He became one of the major character actors of the 20s. Probably his biggest, best-known film was a film called The Show Off with Louise Brooks in, I think, about 1925, 26, somewhere in there. He survived the talkie era, the onslaught of the talkie era. But as most of these guys, they weren't paid much, right? And he had also the problem of having diabetes. And by 1939, I think it had cost him a leg, and it had cost him his career, and then it cost him his life. He died penniless. He was cremated. His remains were then hastily buried in this wall right over here. And it was left unmarked for the last 73 years. Okay? Now let's fast forward to 1998. Is that when Tyler shows up? Yeah, about that. This place, if you don't know the history of Hollywood Forever Cemetery, this place was in ruins a decade and a half ago. The previous owners of this place had just let it completely fall apart. As I was telling some of my folks, you couldn't get around. They were talking about actually padlocking the gates and just shutting it away from the world forever. Tyler Cassidy from the Midwest comes out here with his brother and some other young folks. I think he joined a little later, right?
Yes.
A little later. But they were from a cemetery family in the Midwest. He came out here, St. Louis, yes. Tyler, if you don't know Tyler, like the most unlikely cemeterian in the world. He's got Hollywood star leading man looks. But he came out here, he saw this place, he recognized it for what it was, which is a repository of history. Not just for our time, but for all time. Pumped in a lot of money to fix this place, and now it's become a very viable, very, how would I say it, very active, and also, I'm trying to say, a place where people now want to be buried. It used to be at one time, the only money coming into the cemetery were people paying to have their relatives exhumed and buried other places.
Oh, wow.
Now it's a very, thank you, prestigious, thank you. This is my beautiful wife. That's how viable, prestigious, all these things. And now it's flourishing, and and still just a wonderful thing. The thing I think that's so amazing about Tyler, and Tyler gets it, and so does Theo and his staff. They get it, in that you're not just here to bury somebody, throw them in a wall, throw them away. Okay, I think Tyler and his staff believes more in the dash between the dates. So what they do, one of the things they do here is they do what's called life stories, where they will create biographies of Hollywood stars, of just regular folks, because no one should be forgotten, right? So they actually created a Ford Sterling life story years ago. We'll show you that a little bit later here. But Ford Sterling never had a marker. Tyler has righted lots of old wrongs. I told my group about Hattie McDaniel, the cenotaph over there. I told them about the wonderful thing that Steve got done for Toto, right? And I think that was donated, right?
Yes,
Carrie.
well, here's Carrie.
Oh, hi, Carrie.
I was
Hi.
reading across.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Hi, this is Carrie Bible.
Hi, Carrie.
Another well-known historian. and-
Well-known historian. Yes. Several years ago, I'd been inspired by some stories that I'd heard about other wrongs that were righted, like I was telling you, by Tyler and his staff, also by other people. I think it was Roddy McDowell that gave Florence Lawrence her marker, the first movie star. I think, well, you got Alan Crossland, his marker.
Our group did.
Your group did?
Yes.
And
Sheridan.
And Sheridan, yeah.
got a moved here from-
So nobody should be forgotten. No one should live, die, and then just be forgotten. That's just that's the ultimate crime.
It's Schlitzie Surtees marked.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah. So there's a lot of examples of this. Well, anyway, I'd heard some of these stories, and I'm a big silent film guy, and I knew who Ford Sterling was because I love Chaplin and I love Keaton and all these guys. And I was watching some of these movies, and I would look at these guys and go, you know, whatever happened to these guys? And I hear the story of Ford Sterling, and I hear that he's in a wall at Hollywood forever. I think at the time when I first started looking into it, they weren't exactly sure where he was, or you know. Well, anyway, it was researched out, and I said, we got to do something about this. Okay, about 10 years ago, I talked to some other silent film folks, and they said, yeah, we got to do something. So we had talked at the time about maybe reburying Ford's ashes in a niche somewhere. You run into a lot of legal issues when you do that. I'd kind of put it on the back burner, kind of forgotten about it, but this is one of those things where I said, you know, this is one thing I'm going to get done at some point, okay? Well, a few months ago, my good friend Steve Goldstein here.
Yay!
Yes. And this guy deserves a hand.
Yeah.
I didn't do anything.
No, you did. You absolutely did. And like I said, Alan Crossland, who directed The Jazz Singer, Steve got him a marker.
I personally didn't. The group that
The
we're part of.
group, come on, take some credit. And,
Yeah, I did it.
yeah, that's right.
I carved it myself.
Yeah, he's out there, you know. But anyway, I was looking and I thought, I'm kind of made fun of for this, but I have a big goal list, like thousands of things I want to get done in my life. So I'm just kind of, beginning of the year, I'm kind of looking through it and I'm going, oh yeah, I want to do this one. Hey, you know, Ford Sterling, I should check into that. You know, I should kind of bring that up. Well, I looked at the calendar and I realized it was coming up to his 130th birthday. So I said, you know, what better time than to approach this goal? So I called Steve, because I know Steve can get anything done. And I said, Steve, you know, Ford Sterling, let's see if we can do something. Rebury, get a marker, do something. And Steve, knowing everyone, called to Tyler. And Tyler, wonderful guy, like I said, gets it. Turned us over to Theo. And then Theo, of course, gets it. Theo has been wonderful. We spent the morning, and by the way, this was all donated, okay? Theo spent the morning with Steve and I, and we talked about Hollywood history, we talked about movie history, we talked about silent film history. We came over here, we looked at our options. Can we rebury? Well, you run into legal issues. Let's at least get him a plaque, and that's what we've done today. So I'm going to take a look right now for the first time at the plaque of Ford Sterling right there.
Yeah.
But thank you